Imagine you are walking into a room. It could be a high-stakes boardroom negotiation, or maybe a first date, or honestly, maybe the most dangerous room of all, which is Thanksgiving dinner with the extended family.
Oh yeah, definitely the most dangerous room by far.
Right. Now, imagine you have a superpower. You walk in, you scan the faces around the table, and you don't just see people, you instantly know what they are thinking.
Like reading their minds.
Exactly like reading their minds. You know what they are afraid of, what motivates them, and most importantly, you know the exact sequence of words to use to get them to do what you want.
Yeah, when you frame it that way, it sounds a little bit like mind control.
Maybe a little, but it also sounds like a cheat code for life.
It really is. And the material we are doing a deep dive into today actually compares this to learning magic. It's
Mhm.
based on that famous framework popularized by Thomas Erickson in his book, Surrounded by Idiots.
Magic is a pretty strong word to use for psychology, though, right?
Yeah, it is. But the premise is that once you actually understand the system, human behavior stops being this chaotic random mess. It becomes predictable. It's the difference between guessing the password to a safe and just having the combination written right on the palm of your hand.
I love that image because honestly, I feel like most of us go through life just sort of banging on the safe door, hoping it opens, and then we wonder why the other person is looking at us like we are completely crazy.
Right. We take it personally when it's really just a communication mismatch.
Yeah, so the mission for this deep dive is actually pretty selfish on my part. I want that combination. I want to figure out my own aura or my colors, sure. But more than that, I want the user manual for all the difficult people in my life.
And that right there is the core insight of this whole framework.
Mm.
It's not just about labeling people so you can put them in little boxes. It is about empathy and efficiency.
Empathy, how so?
Well, when you realize that the guy cutting you off in traffic or the colleague demanding a spreadsheet at 5 minutes to 5 isn't actually trying to ruin your life. They're just running a completely different operating system. Once you see that, everything changes.
It becomes less of a personal attack and more of a glitch in compatibility.
Precisely. The framework suggests that while we are all this complex mix of traits, we each have a default color, a dominant setting that kind of leads our personality.
Okay, let's boot up these operating systems then. We have 4 colors in this model: red, yellow, green, and blue. But before we ask you, the listener, to diagnose yourselves, let's walk through the cast of characters. Start us off with the loud ones.
The reds. So the archetype here is the commander.
I feel like I can already picture this person. They're the ones always walking fast everywhere they go.
Walking fast, talking loud, and constantly checking their watch. These are the people the source describes as bold, decisive, and aggressively results-oriented. Their entire existence is basically predicated on speed and control.
So this is the person who, if the meeting runs even 1 minute over, they are physically vibrating with annoyance.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They have the drivers. They just want to get from point A to point B in the absolute shortest straight line possible.
They don't want the scenic route.
No, not at all. If you are talking to a red ribbon, they don't care about your weekend. They really don't care how you feel about the project. They just want to know, is it done and did we win?
That is super high intensity.
They're extremely high. They are fantastic at pushing through obstacles because they view life as a series of battles to be won. But as you can imagine, they can leave a lot of casualties in their wake because they will always prioritize the goal over the people.
Right. They get the job done, but everyone hates them by Friday. Okay, so that is the red. High speed, high dominance. What about the yellows?
The yellow is the socialite. Think of it this way. If the red walks into a room and asks, what are we achieving as you stop? Yellow walks in and asks, who is here?
Ah, the life of the party.
100%. They are the atmosphere changers. You know those people who just bring the energy up the second they walk through the door?
I do know them, and I am slightly jealous of them.
Right, that is a classic yellow. They are creative, optimistic, talkative, and deeply, deeply focused on relationships.
So while the red is aggressively staring at the spreadsheet to see the profit margins, the yellow is in the corner planning the launch party.
Exactly. They are visionary. They see the big picture. But, and this is a really crucial distinction the framework makes, they aren't great with the details.
They skip the fine print.
They ignore the fine print entirely. A yellow might promise you the moon because they genuinely optimistically believe they can deliver it. But they haven't actually checked if you even own a rocket ship.
Right. All enthusiasm, sometimes a bit low on execution. I think we all have that friend who has a brand new $1 million idea every single week.
And they believe in every single one of them with all their heart. That is the yellow charm.
Okay, moving down the spectrum, let's talk about the greens. The framework calls them the stabilizer.
Yes, and statistically speaking, this is actually the most common personality type. If you looked at a massive crowd, the majority would likely be greens. They are the anchor. Calm, patient, helpful, and incredibly reliable.
So are they basically the opposite of the red then?
In a lot of ways, yes, they are. While the red thrives on conflict and craves rapid progress, the green craves peace and stability. They are the glue in a family or on a corporate team.
The ones keeping everyone from falling apart.
Exactly. They are the ones who will sit and listen to you vent about your problems for 3 solid hours, and they will never once check their phone.
Wow, I feel like I need way more greens in my life. That does sound a bit exhausting for them, though.
It definitely can be. The source describes them as soft-tempered, meaning they don't really have those explosive emotional highs and lows, but their most defining trait is a deep dislike of sudden change.
They like routine.
They need it. If you walk up to a green and say, hey, we are completely restructuring the entire department tomorrow, you've just ruined their entire month. They need predictability to feel safe.
Got it. So the red wants to win, the yellow wants to have fun, and the green just wants everyone to get along and keep things normal. And finally, we have the blues.
The analyst.
Ah, the spreadsheet people.
The spreadsheet people wish they were blues. Blues are on a completely different level. This personality is logical, organized, and obsessively detail-oriented. They care about one thing above all else, and that is accuracy.
So absolutely no gut feelings allowed with a blue.
Absolutely not.
Hmm.
If you go to a blue and say, I just feel like this is a good idea, they will look at you like you are speaking an alien language. They want data. They want empirical proof.
Show me the numbers.
Exactly. They are the people who actually read the entire terms and conditions document before clicking accept on a software update.
Wait, someone actually reads those things?
Blues do. Every single line.
Yeah.
Because they are absolutely terrified of making a mistake, they will analyze everything to death just to ensure total perfection.
Okay, so we have the commander for red, the socialite for yellow, the stabilizer for green, and the analyst for blue. I am sitting here mentally trying to slot all my friends and family into these 4 boxes, but I feel like I am a mix of them. Like, I can be bossy like a red sometimes, but I love going to parties like a yellow.
And that is totally normal. Most of us are a combination of colors. But the material emphasizes that we all have a dominant color, a default setting that we naturally revert to, especially when we are under stress.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a specific way to figure out what your dominant color is.
The diagnostic test.
Right. The framework outlines a very specific 3-question test to help you triangulate your exact position. It is surprisingly accurate if you answer it honestly.
Okay, let's do this live right now. I will take the test, and you, the listener, play along in your head and figure out yours. What is question number 1?
Question 1 is the classic divide. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? But be really careful here. Don't just answer based on how loud you are at a party. Answer based on where you get your energy from. Do you recharge your batteries by being completely alone? Or do you recharge by being around other people?
Okay, for me, I definitely get energy from people. If I am alone in my house for too long, I just kind of wilt like a plant. So I am an extrovert.
Okay, got it. Now here is where the source material throws a bit of a curveball compared to some other psychology models out there. It suggests that if you are an introvert, you are likely a green or a blue. Which makes sense, right? Because they are more reflective and they process things internally.
Right. The blue is quietly analyzing the data, and the green is quietly observing the group.
Exactly. But if you're an extrovert, the framework identifies this as likely being red or green.
Wait, hold on a second. You literally just said green was an introvert a second ago, and now they are an extrovert. That seems completely contradictory.
It does seem odd at first glance, doesn't it? But looking closely at the logic in the source, it seems to be distinguishing between being task-oriented and being people-oriented. Greens are heavily people-oriented. They are the ultimate helpers.
So they're focused outward on others.
Yes, so while they might be quiet by nature, they're often outwardly available to others in a way that feels very extroverted compared to, say, a closed-off blue. They're essentially ambidextrous socially.
I see. So a green might not be standing on the table dancing with a lampshade on their head like a yellow, but they are present and deeply engaged with the people around them. Whereas a blue might just be in the corner reading an instruction manual alone.
Precisely. But typically your high-energy extroverts are your reds and yellows. For the sake of this specific diagnostic, if you are a very high-energy extrovert, lean toward red or yellow. But if you are a people-focused extrovert who just really loves group harmony, keep green in the mix.
Okay, that is a really helpful nuance. Let's move to question 2. This one seems a bit easier. Are you logical or are you emotional?
The head versus the heart. when you have to make a big decision, do you look at the cold hard facts and the numbers, or do you look at how that decision is going to affect the feelings of the people involved?
I would have to say I am logical. I just want the thing to work. If it hurts some feelings along the way but gets the job done efficiently, I am usually okay with that.
Okay, so if you identify as logical, the source points to you being a red or a green.
Green again. I thought the green was the emotional, supportive friend who listens to you vent.
They are very supportive, but you have to remember their core archetype is the stabilizer. They are deeply practical people. They aren't swept away by manic emotional highs and lows like a yellow would be. A green is very often the practical voice of reason in a room.
Because they want things to just work smoothly.
Right. They want things to be calm and steady,
Hmm.
which at its core is a highly logical desire. They want the social system to function without friction.
That is fascinating. I
Yeah.
usually just associate logic with the cold, hard, robotic blue.
Oh, blue is definitely logical. But here is the flip side of that rule. The framework says that if you are emotional, you are actually likely a blue or a yellow.
Okay, stop. Blue. The robot analyst is emotional. Now, I know this test has to be rigged.
It sounds completely
Should
wild.
try it.
I know. But think about it for a second. Blues are absolute perfectionists, right? What happens when you go in and mess up their perfectly formatted spreadsheet? Or what happens when you completely change the project plan at the last possible minute?
They get upset.
Deeply, deeply upset. They have a very strong internal emotional reaction to chaos or to any kind of error. It isn't a happy-go-lucky kind of emotion. It is a profound sensitivity to order. Their true passion is accuracy. So they actually operate with a very high degree of internal feeling about whether things in the world are right or wrong.
I guess that does make sense when you frame it like that. A robot that overheats and starts sparking is still reacting emotionally in a weird way.
Exactly. So let's look at your profile so far. You said you are an extrovert and you are logical.
Yeah.
So right now you are leaning toward being a red or a green. Now we need the tiebreaker. Question 3. What is your speaking pace?
Oh, I am a fast talker for sure. I interrupt people all the time. I know it is a terrible habit. I just always want to get straight to the point.
Well, there is your final clue. If you speak thoughtfully and slowly, and you leave a lot of natural pauses in conversation, you are likely a green or a blue. They like to process internally before they broadcast anything outwardly.
And if you talk incredibly fast, like me,
Then you are a red or a blue.
blue is popping up in both categories again.
A blue can talk fast, but
Hmm.
usually it's only when they are delivering raw data. You know, that person who speed reads all the technical specifications to you because they just have to get all the accurate info out there immediately.
Right, the verbal data dump.
That is a fast-talking blue.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, the commanding fast talker, the one who talks over people in meetings, that is almost always the red.
Okay, so let's triage my final test results here. I am extroverted, which is red or yellowish. I am logical, which is red or green. And I am a fast talker, which is red or blue.
The common denominator across all three of those is clearly red.
I was really afraid you were going to say that. I'm the impatient jerk tapping my watch in the meeting.
Hey, society needs reds. We need reds to actually build the bridges and lead the companies and get things done. But this actually leads us to the most fascinating and honestly the most painful part of the source material. It's not just about knowing your color. It's about knowing your kryptonite,
The fundamental weakness.
the breaking point. The material describes these triggers as nightmare scenarios. And this is really the secret to understanding why your partner randomly snaps at you or why your boss suddenly shuts down completely. Every color breaks differently.
Let's go through these nightmares then. What breaks the red?
Losing authority. If you take away a red's control over a situation, or if you force them to move slowly, they physically cannot handle it. The source explicitly mentions slowness and laziness as their absolute biggest triggers.
So being stuck behind a slow driver in traffic is basically a red's version of hell.
Or waiting on a colleague who's taking their sweet time to explain a very simple concept. Here is the key insight to remember. When a red finally explodes, it looks exactly like pure anger to everyone else in the room. But for the red, it is actually severe frustration regarding a lack of progress.
So they aren't actually mad at you personally.
No, they aren't mad at you as a human being. They are just mad that the car isn't moving forward.
That is a huge distinction to make. They aren't just being mean to be mean. They are trying to be efficient, and that inefficiency is physically painful to them.
Correct. Now compare that reaction to the yellow. What do you think destroys the socialite?
I am guessing boredom, maybe?
Boredom is bad, yes, but specifically it's isolation. The yellow runs entirely on social fuel. The source explicitly says that being ignored or being cut off from the group leaves them feeling empty inside.
Oof. Empty inside. That got really dark really fast.
It is profound, though. Think about the difference. If you ignore a red color, they just get annoyed and do it themselves. If you ignore a yellow, they get genuinely depressed. And public embarrassment is the other massive trigger for them.
Because it damages their social standing.
Exactly. If you shame a yellow in front of a crowd of people, you have effectively severed their connection to the group. Their core confidence collapses instantly.
Mental note. Never, ever criticize a yellow in public. What about the green? The chill, stable, easygoing green. What makes them crack?
Conflict. And the source uses a really brilliant metaphor to explain this one. The turtle.
The turtle. How does that work?
When a green faces aggression or sudden unpredictable change, or if they're suddenly put on the spot in front of everyone, they react exactly like a turtle. They pull their head straight back into their shell, and they just hide.
I have absolutely seen this happen in meetings. You ask someone a really tough question, or two people start arguing loudly, and the green just shrinks down in their chair. They go completely silent.
That is a green in severe distress.
Yeah.
And the absolute worst thing you can do in that moment is keep poking at the shell. They will not come out. They need to feel a sense of safety before they will ever reemerge.
And finally, the blue. What is the ultimate nightmare scenario for the analyst?
Chaos. Specifically plans changing without any logical reason. The source notes that carelessness or sloppy mistakes are totally intolerable for a blue.
So if I say to a blue, hey, let's just wing this road trip, who needs a map? They are basically having a panic attack.
Their entire world effectively scatters. They rely on structure to function in reality. Without a system, they feel completely exposed. Inaccuracy actually feels like a physical threat to their safety.
This is so incredibly helpful because it totally shifts your perspective on human behavior. If I see a red yelling, I now know they're just frustrated by slowness. If I see a green shutting down, I know they feel unsafe. It takes the ego out of it. It's not about me.
Precisely. And that perfect realization leads us to the practical application of all this, the communication handbook. Now that we actually know what breaks these colors, how do we hack the conversation to fix them?
Okay, give me the cheat codes. Let's say I need to ask a red boss for a raise. How do I do it?
Be direct, be brief, and be gone.
Really? Just like that walk in and walk out?
The source is very clear on this rule. Do not waste their time. Do not sit down and ask about their kids or their golf game. Walk in and say, I have achieved X, Y, and Z results for this company. I want a 10% raise. Here is the data on why that is a good investment.
Speed and tangible results. They just respect the hustle.
They respect that you didn't waste 5 minutes warming them up with small talk. Now, if you do that exact same brief pitch to a yellow, they will think you absolutely hate them.
So for the yellow, I need to bring the warmth and the small talk.
You have to be friendly. Smile at them. Ask about their weekend plans. Personal connection has to come first with a yellow. But, and this is a really great practical tip from the source, keep the actual instructions simple.
Because they lose focus.
Right. Yellows lose focus very easily. If you hand them a dense 10-page proposal, it's going straight in the trash unread.
So just give them a quick bulleted checklist and a high five on the way out.
Exactly. Emotional connection combined with simplified execution.
What about the green? They are the turtle. I assume I have to be very gentle with my approach.
Very gentle. Your tone of voice should be low and calm. If you need to introduce a big change to their workflow, do it very slowly. Plant the seed weeks in advance so they have time to process. Let them get used to the idea gradually.
And what about when you have to give them criticism?
The source outlines a crucial rule for greens. If you absolutely must criticize them, do it privately and do it very softly. If you criticize a green in front of the rest of the team, you have lost them forever. They will retreat deep into their shell, and they might actually never trust you again.
That is really high stakes. Okay, and finally, the blue. How do I convince the analyst to back my new project?
You have to do your homework. Do not ever go into a meeting with a blues unprepared. If they ask you a question and you don't know the answer, do not guess. They will instantly know you are guessing, and you will lose all credibility.
So saying something like, I will get back to you later this afternoon with the exact number is better than just making a guess.
So much better. Stick entirely to logic and keep your emotions out of it. Saying the data suggests is basically a magic phrase for them. And this is super important. Always give them a clear deadline.
Why do they specifically need a deadline?
Because blues can easily get stuck in what we call analysis paralysis. They will just keep analyzing the data forever to make the final product absolutely perfect. A A firm deadline gives them the logical permission they need to finally stop and finalize the work.
This is incredible stuff. But before we wrap this deep dive up, I want to touch on how these different colors actually play together in the real world. Because we don't operate in a vacuum. The source talks about power teams and disaster teams.
Yes, the pairings are a really fascinating dynamic. You would think that birds of a feather flock together, but the source actually highlights the blue and red combination as a high-speed machine.
That seems like a really odd couple to me.
Yeah.
You have the impatient, loud, aggressive red paired with the quiet, meticulous, slow blue.
But you have to think about the end result they produce together. The red pushes the gas pedal so they actually go somewhere. The blue steers the car so they don't crash. If you have a team of two reds, you just drive right off a cliff at 100 miles an hour. If you have two blues, you never even leave the driveway because you are still out there checking the tire pressure.
So red plus blue equals fast and accurate. I really like that combo. What about a more peaceful team?
That would be the blue and green. The source specifically calls this the steady team.
Probably the quietest room in the entire office building.
Low noise, very low conflict, and incredibly high consistency. One person focuses entirely on the details, which is the blue, and the other focuses on the stability of the group, which is the green. It is not an exciting team, but it is incredibly effective at producing great results.
Okay, now for the gossip. Who should absolutely never sit next to each other at work?
The source identifies the red and green as a very difficult and volatile pairing.
The commander and the stabilizer.
It is a fundamental clash of pace. The red just wants to run forward as fast as possible. The green wants to stop and think about how the change impacts everyone. So the red ends up perceiving the green as slow and stupid, and the green perceives the red as aggressive and dangerous.
I have definitely seen that exact dynamic play out. The red is just steaming with anger, while the green is literally hiding in their shell trying to become invisible.
But the ultimate opposites, the true oil and water of this entire system, are actually the blue and the yellow.
The analyst and the socialite.
It is a total disconnect on every level. You have silence and logic with the blue clashing directly against talkative creativity with the yellow. The source describes this specific relationship as genuinely exhausting for both parties involved.
It's like they are speaking entirely different languages. The blue is just sitting there thinking, why won't they stop talking and just look at the spreadsheet?
And the yellow is sitting there thinking, why are they so incredibly boring and cold? Do they secretly hate me?
That sounds exactly like the plot of every rom-com ever made. The uptight, serious accountant and the free-spirited, messy artist.
It really is, and usually in the movies they end up falling in love. But in the actual corporate office, they usually just end up filing HR complaints against each other. But that is exactly why this framework is so powerful. It turns all that interpersonal friction into a solvable puzzle.
Right. So instead of just thinking the yellow is super annoying, the blue can stop and realize, oh, they aren't annoying. They're just verbal processors.
And the yellow can realize the blue isn't mad at me. They are just deeply focusing on the task at hand. It completely removes the personal offense from the daily interaction.
It effectively turns difficult people into just different people.
Exactly. And that really is the big takeaway here. You don't have to change who you fundamentally are. You just have to learn how to adjust your broadcast frequency so the other person can actually receive your signal clearly.
So here's my challenge to you, the listener, for today. The very next time you walk into a room, maybe it is your next big office meeting, or maybe just walking into your kitchen to see your family, don't just look at the people standing there. Actually try to read them.
Ask yourself a few questions. Are they a red who is about to explode because things are moving way too slow for them? Or are they a green desperately looking for a shell to hide in because things are getting too loud?
Are they a blue needing a hard deadline, or a yellow just needing a quick high five and a smile? Once you actually start seeing these colors in the wild, you really can't unsee them. It is honestly like putting on X-ray glasses.
It changes the social game completely. You finally stop reacting to people and you start actually understanding them.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive today. Go out there, identify your reds, hug your greens, very gently high-five your yellows, and please give your blues some good data. Learn, think, and do something new every day.